everybody, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, then just welcome. In this video, I'm going to talk for the first time about one of my biggest interests, theater. I'm going to make lots of video essays on this subject, but I'm going to start by sharing with you my 5 favorite Broadway musicals, though in no particular order. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite musicals are, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get started! Without any flashy or showy scenery that was characteristic to Broadway musicals of its time, the setting is quite simple. The bare stage of a Broadway theater, where 17 dancers from many different walks of life are determined to get a spot in the chorus of an upcoming show. In between the drama and hijinks of the audition itself, the show delves deep into the stories and personalities of each of these often overlooked and forgotten members of the cast of a Broadway musical. Mike tells everyone how he started dancing by stepping in for his older sister in her dance class in I Can Do That. Sheila, Bebe, and Maggie tell of their occasional escape from their unhappy childhoods in At the Ballet. The dancers share their personal experiences with the bumpy terrain of puberty in Hello 12, Hello 13, Hello Love. Val boasts about the plastic surgery she's had and how it's advanced her career in Dance 10 Looks 3. But in the end, when they all get into matching outfits and sing their song, they become the nameless chorus line dancers we never stop to think about for even 1 second. The show's original Broadway run lasted 6,137 performances and today remains the 7th longest running Broadway musical of all time. The show was nominated for 12 Tony Awards in 1976 and won 9, including Best Musical, Best Book, and Best Original Score. A Sesame Street for Adults, with music and lyrics by Robert Lopez and Jeff Marks and book by Jeff Whitty, Avenue Q's original Broadway run lasted more than 2,500 performances between July 2003 and September 2009 and won Tony Awards for Best Musical, Best Book, and Best Original Score, managing to beat their wildly popular opponent, Wicked. In the titular, fictitious outer borough of New York City, the washed-up different strokes actor Gary Coleman is now superintendent. Brian just got laid off. His Japanese fiancée Christmas Eve keeps coaxing him to get a new job. Bert and Ernie parodies Nikki and Rod deal with the ups and downs of being roommates as the latter comes to terms with his own sexuality. Surly recluse Truckee Monster spends all his time gratifying himself with internet porn. And single assistant kindergarten teacher Kate Monster gets one step closer to finding her true love when fresh out of college Princeton moves into their building. Cuddly, buddy characters you see on shows like Sesame Street. These guys are low-key rude to each other, use a lot of profanity, drink alcohol, look for porn on the internet, and at one point, Kate and Princeton even get naked and have sex. But there's actually quite a bit of drama, heartache, and tension woven into these characters' hilarious hijinks. In 2003, when gay marriage hadn't been legalized in any U.S. states, Nicky broke ground while assuring that it wouldn't change his opinion of his best friend and roommate Rod if you were gay. The iconic number, Everyone's a Little Bit Racist, addresses widespread racism, not in its overt forms, such as slavery, Jim Crow, and racial slurs, but in the little, subtle microaggressions we all inevitably commit as a result of the racism we're all unconsciously conditioned with from a young age, whether it's against Black people, Asian Americans, Latinx, or monsters. Everyone's a Little Bit Racist is really the only show tune of its kind, the one that really tells of covert racism like it is, and does so with such wit and humor. Although as of 2021, some of its lyrics have aged better than others. At the end of Act 1, Kate gives us the feels with the painfully realistic breakup song, There's a Fine, Fine Line. As things get harder and harder in Act 2 for Kate, Nikki, and Princeton, they sing a sad, nostalgic lament entitled, I Wish I Could Go Back to College, about missing a simpler and more hopeful time in their lives. Even as things end happily for almost everyone, they all need to remind each other that everything in life is only for now. I personally laud Avenue Q for its ability to mix the puppetry and other cutesy aspects of young kids' shows like Sesame Street with more risque adult aspects like swearing, drinking, and sex. It also manages to be hilarious while keeping it real about the harsh realities of adulthood. Now for a more popular and well-known among my favorites. When I first got into theater, I never really understood the hype about Les Mis. But once I started listening to the music and learning more about it, I finally understood that there's a reason why the original Broadway production lasted from 1987 to 2003, is the 6th longest running Broadway musical to date, was nominated for 12 Tony Awards and won 8, including Best Musical in 1987, and the show's been revived on Broadway twice since its original run. It's not just because they cast such popular and talented actors, but because it tells such a compelling story of redemption, poverty, life, death, grief, and revolution. The story of Les Mis is set in motion when prisoner 24601, or Jean Valjean, is released on parole after 19 years in jail for stealing a loaf of bread for his starving nephew and also for his multiple attempts to escape. An act of kindness by a bishop compels Valjean to redeem his past sins and violate his parole in doing so. When Valjean assumes the identity of a wealthy factory owner and mayor, one of his workers, a single mother named Fantine, is fired by the factory's perverted foreman, driven to prostitution, and becomes deathly ill. Valjean resolves to fulfill Fantine's dying wish and take care of her now orphaned daughter Cosette, taking her away from the abusive innkeepers, the Thénardiers, and off to Paris. One of my favorite things about Les Mis is its ending. Sure, the main character dies, and a fight to make things better for the poor has failed miserably, but there's still hope for the future, and moreover, Valjean has reached his goal of redemption, and he's ready to peacefully accept his own death. As he enters into heaven, Fantine's spirit thanks him for raising her child, and Eponine's for risking his life to save Marius. Then everyone who died over the 30 years in which the show takes place breaks into the iconic, goosebump-inducing finale, Do You Hear the People Sing Reprise. I was first introduced to this musical when I was called upon to work behind the scenes of my university's production of Spring Awakening to get credit for a gen ed, and I instantly fell in love with the story, characters, and songs, and have been emotionally attached to it ever since. This coming-of-age rock musical, with music by Duncan Sheik and book and lyrics by Stephen Sater, is adapted from the 1891 play of the same name by Franz Wedekind, which has the very fitting tagline, A Children's Tragedy. But even so, just like Avenue Q, Spring Awakening is not for kids whatsoever. But unlike Avenue Q, a raunchy and boisterous comedy, Spring Awakening is a drama that showcases, albeit in a fictional world with fictional characters, the mistakes the adults in Germany made at its time and how the children suffered as a result, and does so without any medicine to help it go down. The story takes place in 1891 Germany, where teaching about and discussing sex was a strict social taboo. Main characters Wendla Bergman and Melchior Gabor and their friends struggle with discovering and understanding their adolescent sexuality. The show tackles many serious issues in a way that was extremely progressive and challenged the status quo of 1891 Germany, including teen sexuality, child abuse and neglect, excessive pressure from parents and schools, teen homelessness, teen suicide, and teen pregnancy. The original Broadway run lasted 859 performances at the Eugene O'Neill Theater between December 2006 and January 2009. At the 2007 Tony Awards, Spring Awakening won Best Musical, Best Book, and Best Original Score. The roles of Wendla and Melchior were some of the earliest of Glee stars Leah Michele and Jonathan Groff, respectively. The last musical I'm going to discuss today is based on the 1992 Disney film of the same name, which in turn is loosely based on the newsboy strike of 1899. At the very dawn of the child labor movement in America, newspaper giants Joseph Pulitzer and William Randolph Hearst hired poor and homeless little boys to deliver their newspapers, New York Journal and New York World, across Manhattan. These boys would buy a bundle of newspaper for 50 cents each and sell the papers for 1 cent each. When Pulitzer and Hearst raised the cost of a bundle of papers by 10 cents, the infuriated newsboys stopped selling the papers altogether. Jack Kelly and his best friend Crutchy and the other newsies are introduced to Davy and Les, who are taking jobs alongside them to support their family since their father was recently injured and is now out of work. Two important female figures in this mostly male cast are Meta Larkin, a vaudeville singer whose theater Jack hides out at, and Catherine Plummer, a young female reporter who covers the newsboy strike. The villain song of this musical, one that wasn't in the 1992 film, is The Bottom Line, sung by Joseph Pulitzer about raising the price of the papers for the newsies. One of the most notable songs in this musical is Seize the Day, led by Davy to get everyone back in the spirit when their strike doesn't seem to be going too well at first. But things look up for them when Spot Conlon and the Brooklyn Newsies show their support in Brooklyn's Here. The show ends with the Newsies' strike ultimately succeeding and with President Teddy Roosevelt on their side and the refuge shutting down. Though in real life, it took them way longer to get to this point. Although this show is quite popular and its original Broadway production ran for more than 1,000 performances, it's the only musical I'm discussing that didn't win the Tony Award for Best Musical, though it did win Best Choreography and Best Original Score in 2012. Thank you all so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments below what some of your favorite musicals are, and subscribe to my channel to help me grow it and to see more videos like this. See you next time. Bye!